Okay, so now this lecture deals with logging into Salesforce and touring the interface. So in the previous lecture, we showed how to click the link in the email and get logged into Salesforce. And so if you return later and go to login.salesforce.com and log in using your username and password that you previously set up, you may encounter this screen here when you first log in. This is asking you to register your mobile phone. You can select your country code and enter your mobile phone number and click register. And Salesforce will send you a 5-digit code that you could then enter to confirm, and that would register then your phone number with your Salesforce account, so that if you were to forget your password or get locked out of your account, you can use your phone to verify your identity to get going again in Salesforce. But if you don't want to do that, you could just say, I don't want to register my phone by clicking here. Or if you want to register it later, you can just click Remind Me Later, which I'll do now. And so now we're in the Salesforce Classic user interface. The first thing to note here, and we're going to kind of go from the top down and left to right for this user interface, is that you notice this butterfly here, and this is the logo for the Spring 2016 release of Salesforce. Salesforce has 3 major releases per year, and they're backwards compatible. And each year there's a winter, spring, and summer release. And so at the time of this recording, Salesforce is currently in the Spring 2016 release. And so you have here at the very top a search bar where you can search for different records and type in search terms. And then moving over to the right, you have this drop down here with your name that it appears. You can click on this and you can see links for my profile, my settings, the developer console, and it's here where you would log out of Salesforce. The next link is the setup link, and that just brings up this setup menu here on the left, which you default to when you sign up for a developer account, which I had you do. And so you may not be familiar with the setup menu, and a lot of these different menu items are not usually visible to you as a user. And so we're going to be going into the Home tab here shortly, but I wanted to specify that this setup menu is accessible and there are certain things that you can access. And we'll be covering some of that, but for the most part, we're going to be dealing with the functionality from an end user perspective, and the setup menu is more for administrators and developers. The next link is the help link, and this is how you can access online help. It's a really helpful resource in that there's a lot of knowledge articles available, documentation, a success community, technical support where you can log cases, some getting started. I'm going to tab back to the Salesforce interface, and then the next link here is the Force.com app menu or application menu. And you can click on this and it brings down the different applications that are currently available in your Salesforce instance. And if you're following along in a pre-existing Salesforce organization, or if you already have a user account for your current job, these will be different than what you see here. If you've signed up for the free Salesforce developer account, then these should be very similar. And if you click on one of these, the tabs across the top will simply change. We switched from sales to call center, and you can switch to marketing, etc. So I'm going to return back to the sales application because this is one of the primary applications that you'll be in. And you notice as well that that setup menu on the left is now gone, and we are on the Home tab. And so I want to speak for a few moments on the various tabs that appear here across the top. And so we have our Home tab, and when you're on a tab, the screen will change accordingly. And so on the Home tab, you have this Create New menu where you can do Quick Create. We'll talk about that more later. Recent items that you viewed. We've not been in our org because I just signed up for it, so there's no records to display. And then it's here on this Home tab that you will encounter your Recycle bin. So if you've inadvertently deleted something in your Salesforce organization, you can restore it by accessing the Recycle bin. Then these other tabs across the top by default, there's a lot of them. We won't go over all of them right now, but you will encounter most of these through the duration of this course. And so there's the Chatter tab. And so other tabs that we'll be dealing with are Campaigns and Leads. And these are really sequenced in such a way that makes logical sense if you think about a typical sales cycle. Is you start out with leads that you're trying to attract their attention, and leads are people that you're hoping to do business with or companies that you're hoping to do business with, and leads are individual people records, and they work for various companies. and then you reach out to those individuals by way of campaigns. And so this is the front end of the sales cycle and the marketing cycle, and this is the marketing piece of Salesforce. And the front end of this course will deal with the marketing side of things. And then as we progress over to the right for some of these other tabs, you get accounts, contacts, and opportunities. This gets into once you've converted leads into contacts, and you've identified and nurtured different leads, and you've identified some opportunities to do business with certain accounts. And so you'll see that this has a logical progression in the sales application in the way that these tabs are laid out, by starting with the home tab and chatter, and then campaigns and leads, and then this next section, accounts, contacts, and opportunities, and as well forecast. And then we start getting into, once opportunities have been closed and deals have been struck, you start getting into contracts and orders. And then as well, once you've attained some clients, you then need to service those clients, and that's where you get into working with cases and resolving issues that come up with your paying customers and providing solutions. And then other tabs along the end of here are products, and we'll be dealing with products as well when we talk about the sales cycle and opportunities. We'll be delving into products and price books and showing how those work. And then the analytics side of things to round out this course, and so reports and dashboards and how those work, and how data drives dashboards via reports. And so from a user interface standpoint, though, there's additional tabs that are available that aren't readily apparent from this particular application menu. And you'll notice that these applications will bring up different tabs across the top here. But what you can do is you can click this plus sign, and this shows all tabs that are currently in your Salesforce organization. And so you'll recognize some of these that we saw before, such as opportunities and products. But I mentioned price books. Price books was not available as a tab, but if you wanted to access the price books tab, you just click the plus sign and then find it in the all tabs view and click on it here. And so that's a way that you can access other tabs that aren't visible to you in a current view, is to view the all tabs list here. And this list will vary depending on your security settings and what you have access to. If you don't have access to a certain tab, or potentially a tab hasn't been created, you won't see it here. And so we see a lot of tabs here because, considering that this is a free Salesforce developer account, the profile that we have is that of a system administrator. And so system administrators can access just about everything on the Salesforce platform. But in your typical world of marketing, sales, or service, or as an executive, you may have access to certain things, or there may be other things that your company don't use at all. And so they've just been removed or hidden so as to declutter the interface. So you're starting to get oriented to the Salesforce user interface. And so before we get into too much specifics, we need to next visit the home screen. So the next lecture, we'll dive into your home screen, and then from there, we'll start getting into more specifics around the different tabs and the objects that they represent, and then as well how to navigate back and forth and perform specific actions that relate to your job, either in marketing, sales, or service. So stay tuned next for the Salesforce homepage.